Hello there. Now, imagine being ordered by a police officer to submit to a roadside eyesight test, only to fail it and have your licence revoked. Not because you have poor eyesight, but because you have difficulty in processing the letters and the officer doesn't know the difference. Amongst the hundreds of comments we've received on our roadside eye test videos, many of you have raised the issue of dyslexia and the potential difficulties it might present for someone taking the test. Now, I've been looking into this and they're right. What I found out really shocks me, and it's uncovered systemic failures that have got to be addressed. Something has got to be done about it, and I've already started the ball rolling as it happens, which I'll tell you about towards the end of the video. But when I share with you what I discovered, I reckon you'll be shocked as well. Welcome to Grey Matters. Hello, and welcome to Grey Matters, the channel that promotes the fact that the older generation still matters and still has relevance, and which looks at issues that matter to the older generation. Now then, the UK's roadside eyesight test. It's not that easy to say. The UK's roadside eyesight test is simple. Right, a driver must be able to read a number plate at 20 metres. Now, on paper, this seems fair and objective, although in a recent video on the subject, we proved it wasn't as clear-cut as that. And for dyslexic drivers, the reality can be very different. And that's because the method of testing doesn't just rely on eyesight, it also relies on reading, and that can be a problem for dyslexia sufferers, particularly as police officers, get this, receive no formal training on how to adapt the test for people with dyslexia. Now, this creates a gap between what the law requires and what actually happens at the roadside. Now, under the Equalities Act of 2010, police officers must make reasonable adjustments for disabled people, including those with dyslexia, and that duty applies during roadside stops just as it does in custody, in interviews and, well, in any other policing context. In theory, this means officers should adapt communication, allow extra time to complete the test, recognise that dyslexia affects reading, not vision, and definitely avoid misinterpreting reading errors as eyesight failure. The law is very clear. Disabled people should not be disadvantaged by the way a test is delivered. Now, interestingly, DVSA, driving test examiners, are trained to make specific adjustments for dyslexic candidates because the ability to read a number plate at 20 metres is part of the driving test. And those adjustments can include things like allowing the candidate to write down the number plate, using alternative colour plates, normally the black on yellow, like on the rear plate, allowing extra time to process what they see, and they will also accept pointing at or describing characters instead of reading aloud. Now, these adjustments exist precisely to prevent discrimination, but police officers receive no equivalent training. There is no national module that teaches officers how dyslexia affects reading, how to distinguish reading difficulty from eyesight difficulty, and how to adapt the test fairly. And this is so important, especially when a police officer has the power to have your licence revoked immediately. Now, the College of Policing only provides national training on certain aspects of the Equality Act, such as disability awareness, communication adaptations for people with learning difficulties, and fair treatment and non-discrimination. But none of this relates to roadside enforcement. Police training, however, does cover how to interact with disabled people, how to recognise communication barriers, and how to avoid discriminatory practices. So officers should understand when adjustments may be needed. Now, that's all very well when dealing with obvious physical disabilities, but when it comes to dyslexia, there's no published national guidance. Nothing stating that officers receive any structured training on dyslexia-specific adaptations to the eyesight test. Nothing about allowing drivers to write down the number plate or use a black on yellow plate. Nothing about allowing extra processing time. These adjustments exist for driving examiners, but they're not part of the police roadside procedure. Police roadside tests are governed by the Road Traffic Act. They're also governed by force policies that vary from force to force. And worst of all, officer discretion. None of that governance mandates dyslexia-specific adaptations. Now, in truth, does any of it, really matter? I mean, the number of people affected must be minute, surely. Well, dyslexia is known to affect 10% of the population. So we're talking about more than 6.5 million people. And around 5 million of those are adults, and probably most of them are driving. So, would you like to know how many of them have taken or failed the roadside eye test? Yeah, well, so would I. But no one knows, because no one records or keeps that data. There's no national reporting requirement for whether a driver has dyslexia, whether reasonable adjustments were offered, whether dyslexia affected the test, or whether the driver passed or failed, and indeed whether the dyslexia was a factor in having a licence revoked. All the police record is the date, the time and the location of the stop, the details of the officer dealing and the reason for the stop, the pass or fail outcome, and whether the licence was revoked. And that means that no force can tell you how many dyslexic drivers were tested, how many passed or failed, or how many had their licence revoked. The data simply does not exist. The police, they need to understand that dyslexia affects reading accuracy, processing speed, and verbal recall, none of which have got anything to do with eyesight.
Visual processing challenges often confuse D, B, P, and Q. When I was in 3rd grade, I stayed back because I could not read and I'm dyslexic. They looked identical to me. These 4 made me cry because they all had, as one of my students said to me, Keith, they're all a stick and a ball. There's a stick and a ball, stick and a ball, stick and a ball. If you invert it, they're the same. If you flip it, they're the same. Be aware of these. M and W. M and W are inverse of each other. There's an M. The other thing about M that makes it problematic is it can have an R in it. Do you see the R? Or it can be 2 N's.
A dyslexic driver might easily mix up similar characters such as B, 8, O, D, 0, D, 5 and S. The problem is that this is very common with drivers who've got eyesight issues too. So it's easy to see how a police officer could wrongly assume it's down to poor eyesight. And dyslexia can also cause a person to read letters in the wrong order, and they often need more time to process the plate, or they struggle maybe sometimes to read aloud under stress. But without proper training, as an officer, as I said, could misinterpret these symptoms as poor eyesight, or maybe non-cooperation, or at worst, an attempt to avoid the test. That could lead to a fail and an immediate licence revocation, not because the driver can't see the plate, but because the officer doesn't recognise the dyslexia-related reading difficulty. And here's the core issue. The DVSA recognises dyslexia and provides structured adjustments for the roadside eye test, and the police don't, yet both are testing the same legal requirement to be able to read a number plate at 20 metres. And if the driving test system acknowledges that dyslexic people need adaptations to avoid unfair disadvantage, why doesn't police enforcement do the same? Why is one part of the system inclusive and the other not? And this inconsistency creates unequal treatment. So going back to the title of this video, do roadside eyesight tests discriminate against dyslexic drivers? Well, from what I've found out, it's safe to say yes, albeit not intentionally, but in practice, yes. The test itself is neutral, the law is neutral, but the delivery of the test isn't. This lack of police training leaves dyslexia drivers vulnerable to misunderstanding, misinterpretation, inconsistent treatment and avoidable licence revocation. The DVSA has already got a proven, fair, disability-aware method of conducting these tests, so the logical solution is for the College of Policing and police forces nationally to adopt the same approach and train their officers accordingly. Now, I didn't feel I could leave this simply as a Grey Matters video, so I've contacted the College of Policing to raise this issue, and I've written to 3 of the directors who between them are responsible for developing policies and standards for police training and operations, supporting standards of practice, qualifications and training across all police forces, and finally for ensuring that the college provides appropriate training and shares best practice across policing. Now, in my letters I've obviously outlined the problem, and I've suggested that they introduce a short standardised training module to protect dyslexic drivers. And it'll also help to support the officers and ensure that the roadside test meets the same fairness standard as the driving test. I'll let you know what responses I get, because until that training happens, dyslexic drivers will continue to face an uneven playing field at the roadside. Now, are you dyslexic? Do you know someone who is? Have you ever had to do a roadside eyesight test? I'd love to know what your experiences were. And did the police officer make any accommodations for you? Did he understand it when you told him, which hopefully you did, that you're dyslexic? Please do let us know. And what are your thoughts on this generally? Again, it seems that there are gaps in police training on this as there are in so many other things. And the College of Policing is where it starts and stops. This is where we've got to get changes made. If I get nowhere with the College of Policing, then I shall take this up to the Home Secretary. And we'll keep going until we get some fair treatment. I don't suffer from dyslexia. I know some people that do. And we can't let that carry on. So do let us know in the comments what you think about this and your experiences, please. So that's it for now. Thank you for joining us. Give us a big fat thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and do subscribe if you haven't. Share the video please, that helps, and hit the hype button. And of course, if you want to, you can join the channel. The join button's below the video, and there are a couple of perks not listed when you join, but you'll see them in the description of the video if you're interested in doing that. So that's it. Thank you. In the meantime, the fight goes on, and we'll see you in the next edition of Grey Matters. It's bye for now.